Okay, guys, it's just 1 minute past the hour here. I'm sure we'll get a few extra people coming and joining us along the way, but without any further ado, we'll make a start. Thank you all for joining us today at the start of International Education Week. This is the first of our series of webinars that we'll be doing every day, all week. Looking at internships, specifically in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, but internships in general in the field of global studies, international development, and human rights, which is the topic for today. So, without further ado, let's make a start. If we could just click through that first slide there, Emma. Just a very first quick introduction to the Kaya team. Speaking right now is myself, Harvick Jones. Everyone just calls me H, and I am the founder and director of Kaya Responsible Travel. And also you're going to hear today from Laura. Laura Smith is our programs manager, and you'll hear from her in just a minute. If you're joining us through the week, Emily is also going to be speaking on some of our calls. She won't be on today, but Emily's our program coordinator. And we have got Emma online today, our program assistant, who is helping us with all the technology as we click through everything and get this webinar working. So that's just the team, the Kaya team that I'll be introducing you to today. And obviously we have our wider team, our program advisors, and all of our in-country people as well. But that would be too much for one slide. So right, okay. So with that in mind, first of all, we just want to welcome you and tell you a little bit about who we are and why we are speaking about this topic here today. So Kaya Responsible Travel was established in 2009. So we've been sending students abroad for coming on about 12 years now. And we are a responsible travel and education abroad organization with a focus on community and environmental development specifically. And we have a mission which is promoting sustainable social, environmental, and economic development, empowering communities, and cultivating educated, compassionate global citizens through our responsible travel programs. A bit of a humble brag, but we have won a number of awards. Specifically, we have been shortlisted or have been winners of the Best Volunteer Abroad Organisation by the British Youth Travel Awards since 2013, and we're very proud of that. I think it really reflects our ethical approach to community engagement and also the support that we provide to our participants. We're very involved in the world of international education, and again, for those of you who are coming at this through a university perspective, feel free to ask us any questions that are related to that. Okay, next slide there. Right. So very quickly, what the programs that we do, we are specialists in experiential programs and cultural immersion in non-traditional destinations specifically. And we do that through 4 different types of programs. First of all, our internship placements. More recently, a lot more of virtual internships, which are online remote programs. We also have programs called Study and Service, where you do traditional study abroad combined with placements in volunteering or internships. And also our straight volunteer service learning programs, which we do especially with a lot of alternative spring breaks, alternative breaks, and a lot of social groups and personal travel as well. Next slide. So where in the world do we work? We have got about 30 different locations or 30 different countries that we work with. As you can see from the map here, they are stretched across Asia, Africa, and Latin America. I won't take you through that full list. You should all be able to see those, but hopefully there are some locations there which are of interest to you guys. And as you can see, we really do have a wide range of options so that we really can match you up to a place that is a good fit for your interest area. Next slide. With that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand you over to Laura to tell us a little bit more about internships.
Hi, everyone. This is Laura Smith. So I'll be talking about what you can do in global studies, international development, and human rights, as well as our in-person placements. So if you're studying global studies, international development, human rights, or a similar major, or really if you're just curious to explore careers in these areas, there are a wide range of projects you can get involved in with local political, economic, social, and cultural issues. These academic majors can be quite broad, And an international internship is really a great way to try out a concentration and gain practical experience in areas such as international NGO and nonprofit development, sustainability, human rights and law, economics, women's empowerment, LGBTQ rights, international migration, or community development. And I'm going to be telling you about each of these areas in a moment. And with Kaya's more than 250 projects in the many different locations that H shared with you, we can really match students from nearly every major and interest area. So let's get into some specific areas. So for those who are interested in working with international development organizations, you can work with NGOs, non-government organizations, nonprofit organizations, government programs, and community programs tackling a breadth of social, environmental, and economic issues, depending on where your interests lie in those areas. And next, if you are interested in development from more of an environmental sustainability lens, there are projects that address everything from food security, eco and agrotourism, and permaculture to green energy and urban planning. So students who are studying human rights or law can get involved with direct service. So working one-on-one or with groups of people such as victims of human trafficking, or if you are interested in supporting human rights causes through policy and law, you could do something like work with a human rights legal firm or policy center to support marginalized communities more from a capacity building perspective. If you have an economics focus or finance background, you can get involved with fair trade or microfinance projects, work with small businesses and entrepreneurs on their business plans, or support skills development for income generation in communities. One of the areas that many of our interns work in is women's empowerment with a focus on the economics side of things. But there are also many other ways to get involved in women's empowerment and gender equality through advocacy, education, and skills development. Another area that many students are interested in getting involved with are LGBTQ rights initiatives, and there are many programs around the world where students with many different skill sets can support, protect, and advance the LGBTQ+ community. Students studying these areas of international development are often interested in refugee and migration issues. And if you're interested in pursuing an internship in that area, there are opportunities to work with international organizations working with displaced populations, such as refugee and migrant communities. And lastly, if you are interested in a little bit of everything, or you're not quite sure which direction you might want to go in, there are a number of different community development projects that are community-led and address interconnected issues in the community from a holistic perspective, such as working on education, nutrition, and public health initiatives in one community. And we'll dive into some specific examples in a few moments. But first, I want to talk about what are some of the benefits of doing an international internship, whether you're doing it in person or remotely. So first, you'll gain hands-on real experience working on an international development project. And many participants who join a Kaya program go on to join things like the Peace Corps, Foreign Service, or other international development careers. And our alums have said that their practical experience really prepared them with skills and experience needed to break into the field. We only place students on projects where you can really make an impact and you're needed and wanted as an intern. So you definitely won't spend your days making coffee and photocopies. And now more than ever, during this time when many of the host organizations Kaya works with are strapped for resources and capacity during the pandemic, the contribution of interns really, really makes a difference. So while you're supporting and contributing to a local organization, you'll also learn about the country and culture. So developing relationships with colleagues and peers from the host country and growing your professional network, which is really important at this stage of your career. Plus, you'll gain cross-cultural work experience and learn how to navigate cultural differences in the workplace. And these multicultural work experiences will really help you stand out on your resume, which is a must if you're hoping to break into an international development field. And finally, if you're thinking about joining a virtual internship, you'll develop remote work skills, which really are different from just taking online classes like I'm sure you're probably doing now. Remote work skills are really increasingly important in the workplace today as more companies offer remote positions. And I would say specifically in the field of international development and human rights, often professionals are placed somewhere in the world with teams elsewhere in the world. So being able to develop those remote work skills are super important. Next, we're going to talk about what an in-person placement looks like with Kaya. So with our in-person placements, you'll work with one of our placement advisors who will match you to an organization and project that aligns with your academic, professional, and personal interests. By working with you one-on-one, we're able to place you with a project that will be both challenging and meaningful. Your project will be, a project is typically between 4 and 12 weeks. It can be longer if requested. And we'll work with your schedule and your university requirements for hours. We know that everyone has different scenarios, and so we can work with you to find something that's going to be a good fit. In each of our locations, we have a local site team who will welcome you on arrival, provide your cultural orientation, and support you through your time in country. You'll also have a project supervisor at your host organization to support you in your academic needs. Throughout the program, you'll participate in reflections, and at the end, you'll complete a re-entry toolkit. And this is really a tool to help you process the experience and articulate it on your resume and in job interviews. Depending on your location, the accommodation that you'll stay in will vary. We work with volunteer houses, homestays, and apartments. So it depends on the location, but we vet all of our accommodations to ensure that they are safe and comfortable for students. And then for each program, there are different dates, deadlines, and costs depending on the specific location and project and how long you want to stay. So if you're interested in seeing what these look like, you can search programs on our website and identify a specific project or projects that you're interested in. And you can see the details of what those dates, deadlines, and costs are and compare to see what's going to be the best fit for you. Okay, now the good stuff. We're going to get into some examples from past Kaya interns in these academic areas. And we'll start with a human rights and international NGO management program. Alua was a student from London who was working towards her master's degree in global diplomacy. Her internship was working with an NGO that supports refugees and migrants. She promoted their integration within Moroccan society by working on educational initiatives, professional training, and developing social programs. So if you were to work with an organization like this, depending on your skills and your interests, you could also help with things like communications, project management, project implementation, event planning, workshops, or gain experience on the administrative side. Our next example is Molly from the US, who interned on a climate change and action project in Vietnam. Molly was working with our local team to develop proposals by conducting needs assessments and baseline surveys with the local community. She also was able to engage with climate change partners, which helped her build her network of climate change activists and experts. Molly told us after the experience that it was great to have a taste of the influence and support the project provides to small coastal communities in Vietnam, which are already struggling with sea level rise as a result of climate change. So climate change programs like this are ideal for anyone interested in learning more about environmental science and sustainability issues in action. Our third example of a past Kaya volunteer or intern is an intern who was working in the human rights field. Yuri was working with an organization supporting the rights of marginalized communities. So specifically in this case, he was working with an NGO in Ecuador that promotes the rights of the LGBTQ+ community. And this organization contributes to building a democratic, responsible, and caring society. Yuri was a psychology major with a minor in international studies, and he was able to design workshops for community nights that helped raise awareness about the lives of vulnerable groups within the LGBTQ community in Ecuador, including migrants and those living with HIV/AIDS. And we can't talk about in-person placements without addressing the elephant in the Zoom. What does travel look like in the time of COVID-19? That's a really great question that I'm sure you're thinking about. And to let you know what we're doing, Kaya anticipates we'll be able to responsibly reopen a number of locations in 2021, which will be done based on careful consideration and planning. We want to make sure the experience is safe and impactful for both you and the local community. During this time, when we have a lot of uncertainties in the world, we want you to be able to plan future travels without risk. So you can speak with a Kaya placement advisor to explore options, but we're not requiring full payment until we can confirm travel is possible to your preferred location. In the meantime, we're also offering virtual internships, which may be a good fit for you if you aren't able or ready to travel yet. And I will hand it back to H, who will tell us more about the virtual internships.
Thank you, Laura. So I'll very quickly go over what virtual internships look like for those of you who are interested in doing something remotely. Maybe your school is not allowing travel in the immediate future, but you want to travel in person, once things are opened up. But in the meantime, there are options for you. So our virtual internships, first of all, the way that we do it at least is that we're working with the same organizations. So these are the organizations that you might be going to if you were going in person. We have long-standing relationships with them. And so the work is similar, but the focus is similar, but the work is more things that we can achieve remotely and online. So we're doing that in 5 different locations, which is Ecuador, Morocco, South Africa, Thailand, and Vietnam. And our placements, it works in a kind of a cohort style where you are together with all of the interns that are working for organizations in that country to do some sessions together and stuff. And then each individual is placed within an organization working on a specific project that either has obviously a social or environmental impact. And again, you get to choose which project in the same way as you do regularly. And those, that work is the same sort of challenging, meaningful work that we would normally have. And also that the supervisor at the organization is still there to supervise the work alongside the local team, where the local team in person might be helping you with things that are happening on the ground, excursions and that kind of stuff. Virtually, what we have the local team doing is working with you on cultural workshops. These are really fun and very immersive workshops where we deep dive into relevant topics such as local cuisine, and we have some cooking classes, or we look a lot at like what do relationships look like with families, with within all elements of society, and topics like that that are really interesting to look at. Alongside it, we also have a system called a local buddy chat, where if our workshops are much more a sort of general overview of what happens in the country and the culture, the local buddies are more one-on-one with a local student, some of them even getting credit to join us in this sort of cultural exchange, where they're talking more one-on-one. What does it look like for a student in your country at this time, and being able to have those conversations, whether it's about politics or dating. We have a lot of topics that you can talk about with the local buddy to allow you to have that sort of cultural immersion. Again, similar to in person, we have all of the reflection sessions, and we also have all of the re-entry tools to be able to help you process that experience. We also have something called a GlobeSmart tool, which helps you understand your work style alongside the local host work style to help you understand what some of those cultural differences are. as you're going through your internship. Unlike the in-person internships, our virtual internships have specific start dates, and we have spring and fall semesters. They each run for 13 weeks, and we have a summer semester, which is an 8-week long. And again, depending on your availability, if you're doing it for a semester, you may be doing this alongside other classes, in which case there's less of a time commitment, and the summer may be a little bit more with that. Get the next slide there. And just to give you an example of what a virtual internship looks like, for the sake of time, I'm just going to do one of these for you today, guys. So for example, Anna was working on a human rights in South Africa program. She was a public and nonprofit administration student, and she was working alongside a human rights lawyer in South Africa. She was helping provide services to victims of human rights violations alongside, there was some shadowing work there, but also assisting with with processing the cases. And she happened to have a minor in gender studies, which came in really useful for her when she actually was helping develop workshops for local women's organizations on the project. She told us that she gained so much valuable knowledge through this experience. She was really grateful. I'm really grateful for it all. My supervisors were amazing, and the work I finished was very rewarding. And we have a lot of examples of those, guys. For the sake of time, we'll sort of skip ahead and just conclude. In terms of the virtual internships, unlike in person, where the different countries have different prices and stuff, with our virtual programs, the cost is the same, again, whether you do semester or summer, which is $12.85. And you can also add on some optional extras. Very popular are the language classes. You can do Spanish language in Ecuador, or French or Arabic classes if you join the Morocco programs there. Also, if your school does not offer transfer credit or home institution credit, and you're looking for transfer credit, speak to our team, because we can have that on as well. A lot of our virtual internships, our virtual interns actually want to go either to their host country or still want to travel at the end of the experience, and to enable you to do that easier, what we do is we offer all of our virtual participants a program discount on future travel, and that can be anything from $100 to $700 depending on where you go and what you do, but we always try and support you in being able to get abroad once you've gone through this experience. And as you can see here, our spring sessions start in January and February, and our summer sessions have a start in late May and mid-late June as well. Just to finish on a quick quote from one of our alumni, Alexis, who was doing a public relations program in South Africa virtually, said, "My virtual internship has allowed me to really hone in on my communication skills, to become more independent professionally, and to trust my capabilities." And just further to that, I thought it was really interesting. Alexis is really looking forward to actually now going to South Africa in 2021 to rejoin the organization that she worked with virtually, despite telling us that previously she had very little knowledge about South Africa and had never actually even considered traveling to the African continent. She was really interested in the topic of the internship, and now she was just become fascinated by the culture that she learned through her buddies and her workshops as well. So this is also a great way of maybe trialing out countries that you might never have thought of going to before, from the safety of your home as such. So what do you do next? So very easily, a couple of different things you can do to get started on this. You can either just contact our very experienced placement teams. Our placement advisors are all very well traveled. Many of them have lived in a lot of the countries that we work in. So you can email them at info@kayavolunteer.com, or there's a phone number here you can call as well. Alternatively, you can just go to our website, take a browse around, see what programs jump out at you, and from there you can contact us to get a phone call in. We do like to have a conversation with every one of our participants to make sure that we're matching you to the right program for your needs, skills, interests. And then once you have identified that program together with us, we can work with you. We encourage you to speak to your study abroad office, your academic department, or your careers service, depending on how it works at your academic institution, if you're looking to get credit specifically. And we can work with you with any paperwork that's needed to do that. Alternatively, obviously, if your school doesn't offer credit, you can ask about transfer credit, and we can help organize that as well. So with that, guys, That is what we are going to take you through today. And we wanted to just give a little bit of time for any questions you guys might have. So if you have any questions, either feel free to unmute yourself and shout out. If you prefer to just drop anything into chat, then feel free. I think there's also a hands up option if you want to put your hand up on here. And just while you're thinking of any questions, you know, just to sort of conclude on some of this that you've heard today, there's a lot of information here. Obviously, we're trying to keep our webinars to a quick half hour. Everyone's got a lot of online fatigue at the moment, and no one wants to extend these too long. But as you can imagine, we could speak about all of this for hours, and especially in this field, this is one of the most perfect start points to head off into a career in international development, human rights, and all of the sort of associated areas with this. This is a really good opportunity to get that experience. Okay, cool. We have a question from Maggie, I think, here. Oh, all internships in English. Yes, that's a good question, Maggie. Well, the answer is yes. All of our placements, we operate in English, our cultural sessions in English and stuff like that. We do have some locations, Ecuador specifically, where our Spanish speakers can actually access some more internships that happen to be to require a Spanish language proficiency. So we do have some additional extra ones that you can get involved with if you do have Spanish language. Obviously, that's pretty common. But no, we certainly, I mean, if we occasionally have the student who maybe from a family perspective has Vietnamese or Thai or an Arabic language, for example, we can absolutely use that, but it's not a requirement, and we don't expect people to come with those languages when we do an internship. And we're working with organizations that have a supervisor that have that English language capabilities in order to enable our work. What often happens is that we might do work in English that then gets translated locally, so that often that's quite common. And then some of the work, they can really use our English language skills, especially when there's work to do with fundraising, grant writing, anything that has an international capacity. Locations such as Asia, especially because all of the different Asian countries speak a different Asian language, they tend to use English as their default language in international development anyway, so that's pretty common. At what age do we recommend doing an abroad internship? It's pretty broad. We do have, for internships, we do have a requirement of 18 plus. So we just need you to have, you know, maybe graduated high school before you come on an internship. We take younger people on our service placements. But in terms of when it's best to do it, I don't know that there is necessarily a best time. I think it's very personally specific. One thing I would say is that if you have an idea that you'd like to go into a field, sometimes doing your internship early can help direct your studies. You've heard the sort of idea of somebody wanting to become a doctor and finding out after their 7 years of study that they faint on the sight of blood. But I think it's similar in an international development front. Sometimes you can go in and do work that you think, I thought that would be different, or as a result of it, find something that you didn't even know existed, and as a result, select the academic areas that you take as a result of it. Sometimes it's not so linear, actually. So as you saw in terms of these examples, whether it goes down a business route, and having business students come into international development is very valuable. Education, so many other majors that kind of align with international development. And sometimes this is a really good way to come experience it, and as a result of it, direct yourself and help you with that direction. So yeah. And we provide all of the support. So regardless of what age you are, we're not dumping you in the middle of anywhere. You're not going to be without people. All of our site teams are very experienced in hosting international students, not just from the US, but from all over the world. And we're making sure you're not expected to sort of be in that location on your own and just struggling. We really do have a good site team that is, providing that support to make sure that whatever age you are, and whether this is before going to university, after you've graduated, or even later in your career, that it is still a great option for you as well. And we are definitely here for those of you who are thinking of Peace Corps as a route. We hear a lot from obviously we speak to the people at Peace Corps, and they do say to us that it's a very competitive field, and with that people who can show experience of having been abroad, been able to, handle themselves in a different culture and experience the challenges of doing that, actually really get a high priority when it comes to that selection process. You can imagine that something like Peace Corps invest a lot of money in getting people out to countries, and they have quite a high dropout rate, and they're always looking for ways to try and reduce that. And one of the ways is to look for people who have this experience and know that they can, that this is what they want, that they don't just turn up and after a couple of weeks realize that it's not up to their expectations. So we really encourage you, if you're going down that route as well, to do an internship like this to help you go down that path. So with that, it's just at past. So I think we're just going to round out off. If anybody has any questions that you didn't ask today or that you are thinking of later, please drop us an email, info@kayavolunteer.com, and one of our team will be back in touch as soon as possible. We will send you a recording of this in case you want to watch it again. Please feel free to share it with anyone who you think might find this interesting. We hope we stay connected with you. We wish you definitely good luck in your career in this field. It is so important and we are very passionate about it. We'll be happy to talk to you individually about it if you ever want to do that as well. Please do get in touch. So with that, we'll let you get on with your day, and happy International Education Week, and we hope to speak with you all soon. Bye.
Bye, everyone.